They are all recorded. And they are kept in the Dream Clients Club, which is now also called the Value Whispering Circle, but I haven't changed the graphic yet. It's my free community that we have each month. There's a masterclass you can attend. There is a pod club every month where you can come and discuss what has happened on the podcast recently. So that's always a really interesting discussion to see what has come out of the recent episodes. And everyone always takes away different insights, and we always have a very interesting discussion and often come out with more insights than we took away from the podcast alone. So that's always really fun. You'll find all the details of all of those events in the calendar section. And in the classroom, you'll find all the replays of these masterclasses plus dozens of masterclasses that have taken place over the previous years as well. It's all in there. There's heaps and heaps of content. And currently, at least, that's all completely free. To access that, you just need to go to my website/club. So our agenda today, we are going to look at the business landscape we have right now in 2025 and what we are entering in 2026. Of course, the world is changing very rapidly. So who knows where that's going to go, but we are going to be looking at what we do know and what has shifted right now so that we can be aware of that and factor that into our plans and our vision for 2026. We'll look at what are the challenges and what are the opportunities for us as well. We will look at your big wins from this year and what are your goals for the end of 2026. It's great to share those together. We will then look at the 4 pillars of business growth in 2026 with, of course, a value whispering lens. For any of you who aren't aware, my approach to marketing, sales, business growth is what I call value whispering. So I will explain a little bit more about what that is and why I believe it's the smarter way to market your business, because it's more aligned and therefore simpler. You waste a lot less time and it's much easier to have that mindset that, yes, you're in the right place, doing the right things and building the right relationships with the right people. And I'll tell you what is the source of real value. A little secret coming up at the end. I will share how you can take this further. So if you found this session helpful, what could be your next step if you want support in 2026 to grow your business faster and more confidently? And we'll wrap up by looking at what have you taken away? Has your vision or your ideas for where you're going to start in 2026 shifted during this session? So we'll dive into like a discussion around where your next steps are. So the challenges that we see are there's real marketing overwhelm. I don't think we've ever had quite so much possibility when it comes to getting our business out there and getting in front of people. And with the rise of AI, all of that's become faster as well. But with that can come this confusion and overwhelm. And overwhelm doesn't necessarily always come from having too much to do, but from not knowing what to do next or not knowing or feeling confident that you are doing the right things at the right time. And then that can feel all overwhelming. There's no prioritization. The big challenge is that it's noisy out there. There are so many more people in more places, and everybody, since COVID especially, has taken their business online. And so many people with changes in the corporate environment are now starting their own businesses, lots more people in the coaching and consulting space, especially. So it can be quite noisy, and that can feel challenging to get your message out there and be seen. We're also seeing a decline in organic reach from changes in algorithms on platforms everywhere. There's the rising cost of ads. They are becoming more expensive and less people are seeing them. So it's getting even harder to get in front of people. And of course, there's audience fatigue. If the world is noisy, it stands that people are getting so many messages, so many ads. So these challenges have led to a shift in what works when it comes to marketing. But obviously, with challenge, there is also opportunity. So opportunities are to use simpler methods of marketing that create a genuine connection with our audience. And I think this is going to be something that we're going to see more and more as there's more use of AI, as more people are feeling overwhelmed, as more people aren't feeling served by social media. We're looking for more ways to have this connection. And we're seeing a rise in WhatsApp groups, for example, because there it's much more genuine, this connection. There's a big opportunity to use AI, but in a way that amplifies your message, your impact, who you are, simplifies your work, and enables you to accelerate the value that you create in the world as well. There's an opportunity to create clarity, connection, and credibility. So because there is so much noise, much of that noise is becoming very kind of average, particularly as a lot of this noise is coming from AI, and AI is the average of the average, right? It takes all the sources out there and gives you that medium. Whereas when you can use AI to create something that is really hyper personalized to you and your audience, which is the opportunity, you can increase that connection and raise your credibility as well. We can reach out, we can find ways to reach out to our audience using AI as an assistant that we wouldn't have had before or just wouldn't have had the time to without a big team. So there are opportunities there as well. And yeah, all of these generic messages are out there now. Just make it easier for you to stand out because your message will be clear, purposeful, and really reflect your value to your ideal clients. So the flip is that opportunity, and we can really start to focus on less but better. So last year, I did these masterclasses every single week, but I was fatigued by that and I was overwhelming my audience. So now we've boiled them down to once a month. We've introduced the pod club because that gives more connection, more opportunity for people to act as a community and have discussions. So that was the beginnings for me, at least, of less but better. And I've seen it really make a difference in the way that I feel about my business, giving me more time to create content that's really more me, and it's paying off, and it's going to continue for sure next year. Do any of those resonate for you? Are there any challenges that I've missed that are sticking points for you, or any opportunities that you're really focusing on?
For me, I think it's that noisy online world that for me has been kind of overwhelmed. And
Yeah.
yeah, perhaps it's AI a support tool, which is something that we're still learning, right? How to make it support us in a world that is already noisy and fatigued with so much content. But yeah, that's one of the biggest one for me, Melita.
Yeah, exactly. So business growth in 2026 with a value whispering lens. I'm just going to bring you up to speed for anyone who's not familiar with value whispering. It breaks down your marketing and business growth into three, I want to say stages, but the kind of other two are there's one first stage and the other two kind of go hand in hand. This first stage is this one you see at the top, finding your true value. This is all about your unique positioning, your brand, and your offer. So what can you offer to the world that embraces your strengths, your lessons learned the hard way, your experiences, your motivation, everything about you. And then we look at how can you use that to make the biggest impact for your dream clients, and who are they and where's that overlap? We're going to look at that a little bit more shortly. Then we look at now, once you know your true value, how do we weave that through your marketing and your sales and all your processes so that you can naturally stand out as the obvious choice for your dream clients without having to do more? This is the key thing. We can always do more, but once we're aligned with knowing how we can create the most value through our work, it becomes much easier to know what is that right marketing path for you and your clients. So we look at how do we find that customized path. I don't believe there's one way to market your business. I've been working in marketing and communications now for more than 30 years, and I've never seen one specific way that works for every single business, particularly with small businesses, because for most of us, our business is us. It's rooted in who we are. And we know we're all different and have different preferences, different strengths, and so on. So it just doesn't make sense that there's one marketing approach that will work perfectly for everybody. There are ones that we can, like certain formulas that are proven to be successful, but we need to make each of those our own. Then we have the self-leadership side. So this is our mindset, our habits, our productivity. How do we create the success environment that we need to make this work? And again, this is so personal to everybody, and it can be personal to your season of life as well. I know when I started my business 17 years ago, my kids were babies. Um, what I could do then versus what I can do now, my kids are teenagers, is very different. So my marketing has changed over the years alongside my changing needs and my business and the way that's evolved and the way my clients have evolved over time as well. So none of this is static, but once you have this process mapped out as you want it, then it's much easier to go back and just do the fine tuning as things change or you understand things differently. But having that whole process in place then just helps everything else go smoother. And that's when you can be more optimized with the way that you use your time and energy as well, which is really crucial. So the first bit's a bit of interactivity. How would you summarize your business growth in 2025? Libby says connection. I love that. Jenny has been finding her true value and really using that with amazing effect, I have to say. Paulina finding her way. Love it. Great. Consolidation for Helen, focusing on your offer for Erica. Where do you want your business to be by the end of 2026? If we're having this conversation in a year from now, what will you be telling me about your business growth next year? For Alexa, she just started in the spring, so launching in general. Yeah, that's a huge thing. There's so much to learn that you didn't know you needed to learn. In which case, go to the Dream Clients Club. I think you missed that, Alexis. There are lots of tools and resources in there to help you, and they are all free. So for Jenny, it's going to be reaching her ideal clients. Yep. Finding more clients, always. Solid. Love it, Helen. So let me look at what those four pillars of business growth going into 2026 are. As I say, this is with the focus through the value whispering lens. So the first is knowing your value sweet spot. So this is laser focused action. Love it, Libby. Oh, keeps going the wrong way. This is where your true value meets the real needs of your dream client. Is that overlap between the two? And the clearer you are about your value sweet spot, the easier it is to attract your aligned clients. My book, Value Spring, is coming out January, it should be. We've just signed off on the book cover, so I think that's really the last stage. So it should be out in January, and you can all get the first chapter. I will email that to you if you haven't already had that. There's a link to it also on the first page of the workbook, but that will already take you through the value whispering process in more detail. But it's where everything that's unique, special, and brilliant about you overlaps with the real needs, desires, and priorities, that's a spelling mistake there, of your dream clients. So you need to really, really know and appreciate and believe in your value. Where this becomes difficult is when we have been told one way or another over our lifetime that, talking about your strengths and your gifts and what you're amazing at, that's bragging. So therefore it's bad and you don't tell people that kind of thing. On the other hand, we're told that if we talk about the lessons we learned the hard way through our mistakes and failures, that shows that we're not good enough. So we shouldn't talk about that either, which leaves you in the middle being the same as everyone else. And this is when you get that bland messaging that just blends in and doesn't stand out. So what you need to do to find your true value is embrace all of it. If you were ever to give, well, if you were to give advice to Alexis right now, about starting her business, it's unlikely to be lessons that you've learned from a textbook, but more those lessons you've learned the hard way. What you figured out along the way, and you're going to share that advice to help Alexis have that smooth path that perhaps you didn't have. So so often our value is hidden in the struggles we've had, the realizations we've made along the way. And it can be quite difficult to unpick that because they're so buried. We worked so hard and we struggled and we failed, and we have this long history of struggle and this one moment where it all came together. And so it can be difficult sometimes to find that one, that really big moment that is so valuable. But once you go into that process, you realize you probably have so much more to offer than you even imagined. I love doing that part of the process with my clients. And then we do kind of the same thing with our clients. Where are they stuck and struggling today? And how can we help them with that? So we're looking for this overlap. And then when you build your messaging, your marketing, your sales, everything from that space, no one else has that same sweet spot. So you're naturally going to stand out and be differentiated from everyone else. And that's the key. So it also enables you to differentiate and be clear about that in a way that's meaningful for your dream clients. It's not meaningful for anyone else. Everything is focused for your dream client. So understanding your niche deeply, it is really clear. And it can take time to go through that process to find out who those people are. We can narrow it down, but then once we start to look at how do we add value to that group, what is the most meaningful way for us to show up, then we can go back and think, oh, actually, my niche is this, and we can make those adjustments. So once you find it, it just makes everything else easier and stronger as well. So in your workbook, you've got some questions to help you dig into this a little bit more about what is your value and where is that hiding sometimes, and where do you feel that you are aware of your strengths. So maybe put in the chat, where do you suspect your real value might be under communicated? And it may be under communicated because you're not quite sure how to say it. Or maybe it feels like, oh, I can't tell people that. That's bragging. This is like being full of myself and I'm not supposed to do that. It may be wrapped up in that kind of space. But, feel free, brag away in the comments, feel proud and show us where you have true value that you may not be communicating boldly enough, often enough, clearly enough, or even maybe not enough, not at all. Or maybe there's something you suspect you have more value, but you haven't quite nailed it yet. So feel free to put that in the chat. While you think about that, I'm going to share Kate's story, because Kate came to me and she had been making a loss in her business for 2 years. And she always assumed it was down to her poor marketing, that she was a teacher, she didn't really understand this. But when we looked into it, it wasn't that at all. She just had missed who her ideal clients were and the value that she offered that they particularly appreciated. Once she nailed that and she really started to understand that and it's right at the beginning of this process that we go through together, she started talking about her business differently. And I remember it was week 4 that we'd worked together, and she came to me and she's like, I just got 5 clients, but they just walked in. I didn't even sell to them. I don't know what happened. But the thing is, she had sold to them, but she'd done so in such an honest, heartfelt way. She just communicated what she believed in, what her vision was, why she approaches her work the way she does, and the results she's so passionate about giving for her clients. So she was selling her true value without even realizing it, without doing anything intentional, just because she had identified her value sweet spot and was really believed in that because it was her. So it became much easier. So from that point, within 6 months, she was starting to become profitable. 6 months after that, she was opening a second location to keep up with demand. So that was really the trigger, was this sweet spot, and we were able to boil back her marketing, make everything simpler, cheaper, easier for her to run. And her school is now, that was like 7 years ago. Her school is still thriving. So messaging that creates demand is definitely an area for business growth. in any year in my book, not just in 2026. But there's a fine line between, and we've all experienced it, I'm sure, this coercive language where people are, making you feel guilty for not doing something and really pushing you in a certain area, to helping using messaging that is really clear and guides people to the result that they want, helps them have those gentle realizations so that they naturally see you as their ideal choice. So getting this message clear is important because that's when it builds trust fast without you having to shout. And most of the clients that I work with are people that don't necessarily want to shout or be pushy, but they just want to genuinely help people and create that connection. And once you get the messaging right, it really supports that. And you want to help your buyers to feel that they're being seen, heard, and understood. And this is the key to messaging that really starts to create demand and brings people into your world and builds those relationships. I like to think of it as being your client's champion, someone that's already there beside them, like helping highlight their strengths and what things could be like for them, so that then it makes it easy for them to make that decision to work alongside you. Because what we don't want is for people not to work with you and get your support when they really need it and go to someone else who is twice the price and half as effective as you are. So really think about your messaging as being your client's champion and their guide. And you really want to make sure that it's clear, simple, and consistent. And I've highlighted the word consistent because this is important. You definitely need to be consistent in your message. So don't change it every 2 minutes and oh, I'm doing this, or now I'm focused on that. Be consistent in your core message, but consistent doesn't mean you have to show up every single day. Consistent is more about how you make people think, feel, and do on that consistent basis. You have these questions in your workbook that you can go through, take a bit of time to work on this. Meantime, this is Paulina, and when she first came to me, she was getting amazing results for her clients, like so many of my clients. But she had adopted a classic freelance business model, which meant she was always responding to her client's timeline instead of taking that step back and controlling it and delivering the quality of result that she wanted to do. So we took time to look at, well, how does she believe she will get the best results for her clients? Once she had that, she was able to redesign the way she approached her work, and it made it much easier to communicate the value she offered. When she moved to her new way of working, it meant that she had to charge her clients quite a bit more and they had to work differently. But because she understood that value sweet spot and how her new model leaned into that, it was much easier for her to communicate that. And every single one of her clients agreed to her new terms, apart from one client. Once she really designed her business around her value sweet spot and what worked for her, she was then able to do even better work for her clients. And she had the time to launch an online offer and start working as a lecturer as well. And most importantly, have more time with her daughter and take her first family holiday for 4 years. So this value sweet spot, as Helen was just saying, she's a speaker coach, but it's so much more than just your speech. It's everything about how what you do infiltrates and impacts everything else in your life. So taking back that control helped Paulina to have that business model that enabled her to go forward. She now runs this amazing content circle, so do go and check her out if you have any needs with regards to your content. So pillar number 3 is creating calm, sustainable marketing, because we ain't going anywhere if we don't enjoy our marketing, and if it doesn't feel doable, we don't do it. We burn out, we feel overwhelmed, and you'll meet Emma in a minute, but she was in that space where it wasn't working. She wasn't sure what to do. So she just did more of what she knew wasn't working, but she didn't have an alternative, and ended up feeling overwhelmed, completely exhausted, and so guilty about the time she wasn't spending with her family. So we need our marketing to feel joyful. And if it doesn't feel clear and enjoyable to us, it's not going to feel enjoyable to our clients either. They're going to feel that sort of forced energy behind our work. So you really want to opt for strategies that suit you, your skills, your strengths, and your personality. And there are hundreds of ways of marketing your business. So there is so much choice, and you can kind of pick and mix, and you can do something completely unique that no one else is doing to build that relationship, to be that guide for your clients. So you don't, if it's not working for you, take a step back and be courageous and find it. If I could guide my clients the way I want to, what would that look like? And you may surprise yourself with the creative ideas you come up with. And just because no one else is doing it, it doesn't mean it's not valid. So try it. I always think marketing is a bit of an experiment. We don't necessarily know what's going to work until we try it. And then we can start to see, well, that worked brilliantly for my audience, but it was draining for me. That worked brilliantly for me, but my audience didn't quite get it. You're going to find that mix that's going to work for you. And you want to create an environment and a system that supports you as well, because marketing can very easily take over your life if you let it. But once you create the right environment for you, it becomes much easier, much more manageable. And when you line everything up to your client journey, it starts to become logical and easy as well. I promise. So here are some of the questions that you'll find in your workbook around marketing while we look at Emma's case study. So Emma, as I said, she was doing what she thought she should be doing, and what she was seeing the online gurus were saying, you have to have a funnel, you have to do this, you have to be showing up that way. But it wasn't working for her, and she'd lost a lot of confidence after taking a break from her career. She'd lost sight of what made her so valuable and in her skills and abilities. So being pushed to show up a certain way when she had the confidence gap wasn't helping. She needed to fill that gap first. And then when she took that time to find her value sweet spot, the right way to market her business became clear. She was then able to really do things her way. And if you look her up on, her name's Emma Weiner, look her up on LinkedIn. She's got amazing content there, but it's a little bit different to how I see anyone else showing up, but it's 100% her. And it's really, really working. She went from low 5 figures in her business over 2 years to close to 7 figures, just by having a marketing system and an offer that worked for her. And she has 3 offers that she runs, like one offer every spring, one offer end of every summer, one offer in autumn. And that's the way she runs her business. And it gives her the time and space to do what she wants outside of that. But now she's found that system that works. She can enjoy that time off guilt-free, and she can perform extremely well in serving her clients as well. So the final pillar is around sales. I know that awful word. But sales is really, when you have a process, it helps to build predictability, consistency, and confidence in your business. And sales is really that next step in your conversation with your clients. It kind of comes in the middle of marketing. So you've got people interested, you're going to have a conversation to help. And again, we're coming back to this, helping them feel seen, heard, and understood. Your sales conversations are so powerful at enabling you to do that and giving you a bit more time and space to understand where they're at and be that champion guide for them and help them make that right decision, whether it's to work with you or not, to help them take that next steps. And obviously, we always hope it's going to be, yes, I'd love to work with you, but if it's not a good fit at that moment, it doesn't, we need to take that. But I've often had clients that, in that conversation, it's become clear that we're not a good fit for one reason or another. But because we've had such a wonderful conversation and really built rapport, they sometimes they've come and joined my program 2 or 3 years later, but in the meantime, they've recommended me to other people because we built that trust. So you just never know where that next conversation is going to take you. And I always think that clients come from conversations, whether that be in a sales conversation or in direct messaging or a message we have on social media, a conversation we have there. We need, they don't just find you and become a client. There's more of that process, and mapping that process to your value sweet spot, how you can personally add impact and help them to feel understood, but also feel that they're getting to know you. They're starting to build that confidence is really key. And sales conversations are not icky or evil, but a real opportunity for you to add even more value into that relationship. It's really an extension of your true value. And again, we've got some conversations there. So, what would it do for you if your conversations felt more natural? You'd certainly get more clients. Feel free to put, like I said, in the chat anything that's standing out for you. And this is Sarah. She was having lots of sales conversations, but she dreaded them because every time she would they took a lot of her energy. She would pour out everything that she does, everything that all the ways she can help people. And then at the end, people would be like, oh, I'm not really sure. And either wouldn't buy, or they would buy the smallest thing, or they would and sometimes buy the smallest thing and demand really big discounts, which meant that for all the effort she was putting into her clients, she wasn't getting the reward that she needed. She was able to pay her team, but not necessarily herself. But what we realized when we looked at her sales calls structure was that she was yes, she was telling them everything about her value and everything about what she did, but it was overwhelming her clients. They weren't able to see what thing was going to be most helpful for them. So, in what she did once she understood her value sweet spot was then she was able to be more directed in telling them just the value that she offered to their specific situation and make one single recommendation of how they could work together. Suddenly, her clients became clear, they weren't overwhelmed, and she started selling much higher ticket offers, which meant that she could serve them deeper, that she could solve more of their problems, and no more discounts. Nobody asked for discounts because they really understood the value that she could offer and what they were going to walk away with as a result of working together. So once you understand your value sweet spot, it really weaves through everything else and makes every other part of the process, I'm going to say easier because it's never easy, of course. We still have to do the work, but it just all feels more aligned, and therefore it's easier for us and it has more impact for our clients as well. They're clearer too, and that's really key. So this isn't in your workbook, but growth in 2026 without doubt will involve us leaning into AI. So you want to use it as an assistant, not a guru. So make AI work for you, but you are still the expert. The value you offer comes from you, your knowledge, your experience, your way of seeing things. So you want AI to amplify that, to make that easier for you to add value, not for it to tell you this is the way you should be running your business. It doesn't know. And as I said, it just gathers the average of the average, and you'll end up the same as everybody else. So we don't want that. One way that I've learned helps to make it an assistant is to talk to it. So you collaborate. So instead of typing, if you speak to AI, it becomes much easier to have this collaboration and say, well, that's not quite right, or this is how I see it, or to be the boss, be the leader of AI. And you can create custom tools to build consistency around your own process and value. And that's just getting easier and easier to do. And you want to always make sure that whatever AI creates for you, you're checking and refining for consistency with your value sweet spot. Very often it comes up with stuff that sounds really nice, but when you question, but is that me? Would my clients recognize me in this? Then you can start to customize it much more and feed it back the information about you and your clients and what you do and don't do and what you believe and don't believe and so on. The more information you can feed into it, the more accurate that's going to be. Because ultimately, you are the value in your business. So you really want to get clear on that value you offer to your dream clients, your value sweet spot, and then weave that through everything that you do so you can naturally stand out and feel really confident as you do so, because you start to recognize more of the value that you can bring. And it is a process. You need to constantly stay tuned into that and refine as you go. And it's okay to completely change and evolve if you want to. Don't wait for everything to be perfect, but do keep listening in and refining that as you discover and the more you work with your clients, the more they'll reflect back to you the value that they, as your value as they perceive it. So you can start to embed more and more of this into your business and it will just become more you the whole way through, which is really the goal. So hopefully this has already helped you to think a little bit differently about where and how you want to take your business forward in 2026. I'll send you the workbook so you can work through that. I'll upload this to the Dream Clients Club. If you're not in there already, go to my website, melittacampbell.com/club at the end, and then you'll be redirected to that page. And there's heaps and heaps in there for you to get stuck into. Thank you all so much. Have a brilliant end to the year, and I look forward to seeing you again in 2026.